Here we are again, folks. This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. As of late, I happen to take this little thing right here, this telephone, that you can go all over the world with it in just a few seconds. You can look at everything that's going on in the world. Nothing is hidden anymore. All the secrets are out. Everybody knows what's going on. Knows the worst part of the world is on this thing, and the best part of the world is on this thing. God created the heavens and the earth, and when you have a picture on here of the roundness of the earth, and you have a picture of the heavens on here, and a picture of the sun and the clouds and the moon and all of the stuff that God created without the interference of man, you have a beautiful picture of something God made. And He made this for you and I. But He didn't make this for you and I for a permanent place. This is a passing through. I'm 76. There's no telling what day I may just leave this earth. But I tell you what I want to do when I do leave it. I want to exit into the place God is. I don't want to exit into the place where there's no God, where the devil is. That abode is called the abyss. It's a bottomless pit. Do you know that scares me slapped to death to wake up from a dream where I was falling and 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 falling. I've been there a couple times in my life. I was there. To me, the most frightening to a human being place to be is you're falling, and you're falling, and you're falling, and you're falling. And after a while, you start grasping. There's nothing to grasp. Nothing to grasp. Nothing to grasp. Nothing to grasp, and you're falling, and you're falling, and you're falling. And you feel like you're getting littler, and littler, and further away. And all of a sudden, you get big again. You take a breath, but you're still there. You're still falling. You're still falling. Helplessly going into the pit where the devil and the falling angels are. The pit where the devil and the falling angels are. Where there's everlasting misery. Everlasting. We can't comprehend that word. We can't comprehend that word. But it'll scare you to death when you start doing that. And when you come out of it, you say, where have I been? I've been there a couple times in my life, and God brought me back. He brought me back from that place. I never, not ever, want to go through that again. What I'm going to go through is going up, going up, going up, in rays of light, and the light shining down in rays, and drawing me up, and I'm going up to heaven, and I have a being drawing me up, not falling down, and him with his arms open down there saying, come on into hell. Come on into hell. Welcome into hell where there's nothing but misery. Nothing but misery, heartache, crime, fighting, misery. I got a place for you in solitude. Solitude? What is solitude? That's what you can see everybody, but nobody wants to see you. You can see everybody, but nobody wants to see you. Forever. You can have all of the desires you ever had on this earth. And you can see all of them, but can't touch a one of them. That's a picture of the physical side of hell. And at the same time, you're in a body that can't die. And you got flames and fire. Flames of fire all over you. You're burning up, but you can't burn up. You're in an everlasting furnace, and you're a body that won't burn up. And you'll suffer forever, and 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 forever. With no end in hell. Too late. No way out. Too late. No way out. Will you ask God to deliver you? No. You'll be in the devil's domain then, and you'll curse God. You'll curse him for allowing you to be there when it's your fault. There are people out here like me, like Brother Peter, that says to you, sir, ma'am, I've been there. I walked on those dangerous roads. I was going to tell you something about this here thing right here. You punch in the most dangerous roads in the world. You punch in the most dangerous bridges in the world. Do you know I lived 30 years on those roads? I lived 30 years on them bridges. And when I look at them now, they make me cringe. Because I know that if I'd have fallen off, I'd have been in hell forever. Because I hadn't said, Jesus, I'm a sinner. Forgive me of my sin. Come into my heart and save my soul. My friend, do not wait until you're on a deathbed and you may not have the opportunity to say that prayer and mean it. You may not have that opportunity. If you hide in your heart enough times, the Lord said, I'm going to take my hands off you. Then you just die and go to hell. That's up to you. I've worked with you, I pleaded with you, I begged with you. I sent Peter by there on PH Tidbits. I sent him over there and I put you on his station so you could see it. And you turned him down. He told you what it was like. He walked on that road. My last days of alcoholism, I drove miles to places I didn't even know. I didn't even know I went there. People say, I saw you down there so-and-so, about 30, 40 miles from where I live, at a beer joint, acting a fool, drunk as a skunk. Left there and got in the yard somehow and got home, opened the door of the truck and fell out on the ground. Passed out. And my poor wife dragged me in the house so my neighbors wouldn't see me. Took my clothes, put me in the bed. Took care of me. May God give her a double blessing where she is now in heaven. But God took this old miserable, wretched soul that I was. I was a thief, liar, cheat, everything, whoremonger, everything, opposite from God. For a good 10 years, I was everything opposite from God. And He saw fit to keep me alive and bring me through that. I look back now. When I look at that picture of those roads, if you look that up, the most dangerous roads, you look at that picture where that big truck is on that mountain. And that road gets narrower and narrower and narrower, and his front tire just keeps trying to fall off. And you can look down and you can't hardly see the bottom, it's so far down. I lived on that road. I lived on that road. Right at the edge of hell. Right at the edge of hell. Right at the edge of hell for 10 years. Mother and father praying for me. Mom and dad and other people praying for me. God save my boy. God keep him alive. Don't let him go to hell forever. Keep him alive. The simple little verse. The simplest of all verses. John 3:16. For God. Listen to this. The God that created this universe, the God that created the heavens, the God that created this earth, He so loved this drunk that He didn't want me to go to hell either. And He'd draw on me, and He'd draw on me, and He'd draw on me, and He'd draw on me. People pass through my life and say, hey, Pete, man, you need to get right with God. You need to find the Lord. You need to do what's right. And I'd slough it off, cuss them out. But my front wheel was off the edge of the road. All I had to do was go another inch or two, and I'd fall off into hell forever. But there was those praying for me. And saying, I used to get my beer every Sunday. And I'd drive down to a beach and lay down there and get drunk. The wife and kids, the kids would go swimming, and the wife would be in a muddle because I was a drunk, laying there around drinking. But I drive by this church. And this church I drive by had more and more and more people at it. And I used to say to my wife, and I was in earnest too, and I did. After I got saved, I went to it. I said, if I ever got saved and went to church, I'd go to that church right there. She said, why? I said, it's growing. Look at it. Must be something there. And there was. November 5th, 1972, drunk as a skunk when I wrecked my car and got out, and the Lord said, your number's up. And I said, God, forgive me my sin. The next Sunday, I got baptized in that church. And the following Sunday, a week later, I was preaching in the jail. And a month later, I had Bible courses in the jail, and I'm illiterate. I can't spell a lick. I have a dyslexic spelling problem. I can't spell a lick. People write me cards, send me letters, do all kinds of things, and I can't answer them unless I do it with my mouth because I can't write it down. I can write it down, but they couldn't read it. It's just gobbledygook. So I have that problem. But God saved me for a reason. He's using me. And I'm allowing Him to use me, and I want Him to use me, and I've got an awful lot of using for Him to do. Because I'm glad I don't have to cover up for my past. He forgave me of my past. He cast it into the sea of forgetfulness. But I did put this tract together. When I got saved in 1972, I put this tract together. And I didn't know the plan of salvation like it's in there. It is in this tract. And come to find out, God had me do that as a witness that He's the one in me, and He's the one guiding me, and He's the one giving me what I need, and He's the one showing me. Last night I was at church. I took a pen out of my pocket and I told the preacher, this is the pen I want to see us use in our ministry at the hospital. I want to give everybody in the hospital one of these pens, have Faith Baptist Church on it. I got it from the groom. I took my dog to the groomer yesterday and she gave me that pen. It's not a cheap pen. It's a pen probably cost her over $1, maybe $2. It's a good pen, not a piece of junk. And I want to put one of those pens in this Bible in a little slip when I go to the hospital and give this to people. I'll give them something good. Are you saved? Are you a Christian? Are you watching PH Tidbits because you want to learn something about the Lord? Are you watching PH Tidbits because you're hunting for something? Can you drive by a man walking down the side of the road and not have your conscience say, I should have picked him up? And at the same time, something will say to you, yeah, but he probably would have killed me. He might have killed me. Well, in this day and age, he might. But also in this day and age, you have the protection of your Father God in heaven, and all you got to do is pray about it. Say, Lord, I'm going to pick this guy up. Would you make it to where I can witness to him, win him to you, and then when I turn him out? I've picked hundreds and hundreds and hundreds up. I've only had to put 2 out of my vehicle out of hundreds. Stop and say, hey, you need to get out. You need to get out. And get them out of the car. And so, out of hundreds, I've had a couple. Let's look at 2 Corinthians. For ye have not received, Romans, 8:15-17. For ye have not received the spirit of bondage again unto fear. We do not have the spirit unto fear again. I talked about that falling fear. We don't have that anymore. But you have received the spirit of adoption, whereby you can cry, Abba, Father. I'm coming to you, Father. I'm coming to you. And one of these days, I'm going to him. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. And if children, then heirs, and joint heirs with Christ, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified with him. You know, that's an odd word used there. Because we're not doing the way of the world? Is that suffering? What the suffering he's talking about here, because we're not doing the way of the world, people are going to say, well, that fool, he believes in God. He thinks he's going to heaven when he dies. No, I don't think about it. I know I am. I know I am. And I've headed the other way a couple of times. I laid in a hospital bed, hit my head. 1959. Hit my head. Got a concussion in my brain. Laid in the hospital. Blood pumping up. Couldn't pass to the other side. Stopped right there. But my heart wouldn't stop pumping. And my head was about to blow up. And I screamed and I cried and I said, will somebody kill me? Please, will somebody kill me? I begged for somebody to kill me. I wanted to die, not realizing had I died right then, that I would have lived in hell forever with the same amount of agony I had right there, wanting to die in hell, another death, and can't die it. That I got myself into hell and now I got to live there forever, screaming and crying and wanting somebody to kill me again and get me out of that misery. And that will be forever. All of the bad things that I talked about today are in hell. The falling, that's in hell. The screaming and crying from the pain, that's in hell. You say, well, will you have friends? Oh, I've heard people say, well, I get down to hell, I'll have plenty of friends there. There's no such a thing as a friend in hell. There's no such a thing as one good thing in hell. If your soul and your spirit gets to hell, you know that picture we see of the devil with a pitchfork? That's not far from the truth. That's not far from the truth. That you're burning and squirming in the fire, and your flesh is still alive and won't burn up. We see a picture, a heavenly picture, of the 3 Hebrew boys when they were cast into the fire. That the fire was so hot it killed the men that built the fire. But those 3 Hebrew boys didn't burn. Didn't even have the smell of smoke on them. That's a picture of a living body living in pure fire. Except to them, they were gods and the devil couldn't take them and the fire couldn't burn them. What did the fire burn? It burnt the ropes off their hands and didn't burn their flesh because they were everlasting souls for God. An everlasting soul for God faces no fire, but a lost soul will live in fire for eternity. You say, Brother Peter, you're sitting there talking about all this. You're not using much Bible. I don't have to use much Bible. I've experienced close enough to being in hell to be there. I've also experienced the fact that I can live in pure bliss in heaven and will be there forever. And he said unto me, it is done. I am Alpha and Omega. I am the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of water freely. Whew. All I said at 3 o'clock in the morning, November 5th, was, God, forgive me. I am a sinner. And he freely gave me this everlasting water. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. How did you get that, Brother Peter? Drunk as a skunk? And said those words, and God took me? An old guy had been out in a place playing poker for 4 or 5 days, rolling around his own puke and his own vomit and his own nasty, dirty life, cussing, swearing, and doing everything that was absolutely 100% opposite, and God comes along and says, hey, you pulled your last straw. You have pulled the last straw out, and you ain't getting another one. It's time for you to get right, or I ain't going to talk to you again. I was that close to the pit. I was that close to falling in the pit. And I would be falling today, still falling in the pit today, still going, still going, still going, still in fire and flame, being probed by others and all kinds of misery, and listen to all kinds of wicked hollering, screaming and 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 screaming. And there's no bottom. And I'd be screaming too. Get me out of here. 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 There's no getting out. You're there forever. There's no getting out. You're there forever. There's no getting out. I've seen a man face to face, dying, without knowing he was going to heaven, after speaking to him, talking to him, and telling him, and doing everything else. And I saw his eyeballs get big as golf balls. And he was headed out of here the wrong way. Not a pleasant sight. If it wasn't for all the sedation we have today, we would see an awful lot of that. Hey, you see a man going to hell now and dying, and he ain't got no sedation. You're going to know he went to hell because he's screaming. He's already hollering. He's already saying, I'm in fire. He's already saying, my feet are burning. Without medication. What we have today is we're sedating people's bodies off from this earth, and they're dying off and going into hell, and we don't hear the screams and the cries that we would hear. Wow. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. 2 Corinthians 6, 17 and 18. What a beautiful scripture. I read Romans 8. Look at John 1 and verse 12. But as many as received him, that's received God, said, God, I'm a sinner. Forgive me of my sin. Come in my heart and save my soul. As many as received him, to them gave he the power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name. It's a matter of belief. You say, but I don't have the ability to change. No, you don't. But when you believe, God will come in your heart, and he will give you the ability to change. You can't change on your own. If you could change on your own, we wouldn't need a Bible. We wouldn't need God. We wouldn't need what the Lord made for us. But we do need it. Look at John 3 and 2. 1 John 3 and 2. Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be. But we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And all it took to be one of his people was to say, Jesus, I'm a sinner. Well, our time's come and gone, and I'm going to have to leave. He said, this people have I formed for myself. They shall show forth my praise. Isaiah 43:21. If you've said, Jesus, I'm a sinner, forgive me of my sin, come in my heart and save my soul, you will be with him forever. Well, our time's come and gone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.